Welcome to PeopleTech, the podcast of WorkforceAI.news. I'm Mark Pfeffer. Today, my guest is Jim Milton, the Chief Strategy Officer of SmartRecruiters. We're going to look beyond the usual talk about AI increasing efficiency and look at its impact on ease of use, how it can unite the use of multiple platforms, and how its impact can work its way through all of HR. That and more on this edition of PeopleTech. Hey Jim, welcome. Can you tell me a little bit about SmartRecruiters? What do you guys do, and where's AI fit into it?
Sure. Well, SmartRecruiters, if you talk to the analysts, they'd call us a talent acquisition suite. And that's just a fancy term for an applicant tracking system at the core with a number of other key kind of recruiting applications connected to it. And so we help, brands around the world, like from Visa to Qantas to Domino's Pizza. They'll turn to us as, they'll call it kind of a best of breed talent acquisition suite to help kind of end to end with hiring. So attraction, selection, and offer management and onboarding. So the full life cycle of hiring will help automate their processes, keep them compliant, and help give them access to the latest tech to get an edge and get some alpha in their hiring process. In terms of AI, I mean, it's an exciting time for us because AI specifically helps drive our true north and our kind of brand promise. So if you've seen SmartRecruiters and some of our marketing, some of our events, we talk a lot about this term hiring success. So we try to build deep partnerships with our customers and not just throw software over the fence and hope that they can use it and hope that it works out for them. We're committed to this idea of hiring success, which means it's a strategic commitment to working really closely in the weeds with our customers to constantly identify roadblocks and barriers that they're facing and then just methodically remove them one by one. And so last year we came out with a sort of a slogan or a phrase that talks about that methodological kind of removal of barriers on behalf of our customers, and we called it boundless recruiting. And so SmartRecruiters, probably more so than any other vendor, is just really committed to removing these roadblocks. And we think AI is really key to this. And there's kind of, and I'm happy to go into more detail, but there's probably three pillars where AI drives some pretty amazing advantages for our users and our customers.
It seems like there's two eras of AI right now. There's the before ChatGPT and after ChatGPT. So where do you guys fit? Were you working on AI and with AI before everyone started to talk about generative AI and all that?
Yeah, first of all, I agree with your framing of kind of the before and after ChatGPT. I think what that really means is we're kind of back to the future. ChatGPT brought back kind of the command line interface. So for anybody as old as me, if you remember using DOS or other programs, it's just about typing something in and getting a response. ChatGPT brought us back to something really simple that worked really well, that got lost as everybody for so many years focused on graphical user interface. And that simplicity of just being able to type in a prompt and have a dialogue with the system, it was obviously a super game changer. So to your point, we were working on AI. We had made an acquisition of a company called, we had made an acquisition of a company that helped accelerate our AI development. And AI has been embedded in SmartRecruiters product. We have, for example, a feature set called Smart Assistant. And we've got a deep learning approach to matching candidates and helping recruiters shortlist candidates using AI. But I think we were inspired, probably like almost every other company, by the ChatGPT kind of conversational paradigm. And it really helped me, and I think our R&D team, kind of see new potential for what AI could look like. So I think maybe what I'll do is I'll lay out three quick epiphanies that we had, and if any of them are useful to follow in more detail, we can, but I'll tell you how after ChatGPT we're looking at things. So quickly, number one, because ChatGPT and in combination with all sorts of other technologies, and I'm going to call out some of the no-code technologies, these are the platforms that let anybody even people who are not technical, right, actually developed software. The no-code platforms there are many of them out there. One of them is called Bubble. There are lots of them. The no-code software multiplied by the power of OpenAI and large language models like ChatGPT basically means for us that in the midterm, we see not just our customers, but users across the world creating their own apps. So one of the big things that we're paying attention to is, after ChatGPT in this era, kind of a proliferation of build it yourself apps, hyper niche customized recruiting apps. But again, this is larger than recruiting. And that means you can get things done that you couldn't get done out of the box from SmartRecruiters or any ATS. And we can go into more of that later. That's interesting. So in this new era, we're thinking about people building their own custom apps. We're also thinking about the eradication of manual hiring tasks. So again, if the system is really smart enough, if the language model, or now they're talking about large action models, which I don't know how technical we want to be on this podcast, we can go into these things, but some of the really bleeding edge stuff, and now we're talking even beyond ChatGPT, it's really starting to look like we can have some autopilot features in hiring where we're talking about the total eradication of some manual hiring tasks, whether it's repetitive things like scheduling, interview scheduling, sending out offers, sending out assessments. There's really not much risk of taking the human out of the loop, and there's everything to gain by freeing up, hiring teams from those things. So again, eradication of manual hiring tasks. We're thinking about that, and then in this post-Chat GPT era, as you framed it, think about extreme ease of use, just kind of a radical rethinking of the user interface, not just for our software, but for software in general. Mm-hmm. And that means if there are tasks where the human does have to stay involved, the recruiter, the hiring manager, the executive, whoever is on the hiring team, there are going to be tasks where you're going to need a human in the loop. But that doesn't mean that human now has to become trained and certified, right, as an administrator on SmartRecruiters or some applicant tracking system. Because of this new conversational AI and the way we can just talk to software and tell it to do things, it's almost an equity program. AI as an equity program to help very non-technical users use complicated software without having to know how it works. And so that extreme ease of use is really interesting to us. And I'll give you one little tidbit here. It's not just about talking to the software and having it do what you want it to do. It's also about what we call free range user experience. So maybe a hiring manager who has no technical skill, has never been trained on SmartRecruiters platform as an administrator, in the future can just talk to SmartRecruiters, but they can just do it from Slack or from Teams, where they're already comfortable. So again, that extreme ease of use is may not be so obvious when we're talking about AI, but it's all connected, because if you can extend the power of AI on the back end to interfaces that people are comfortable on the front end, then you've democratized use of the software. So I've said a lot there, but I'll pause in case there's any thread you want to pull on.
Well, yeah, I'm interested in the whole idea of what you call extreme ease of use. Most AI solutions providers, when they talk about the advantages of their system, they talk about time savings. The line they use is all about letting your staff move on from the mundane into more strategic work, which I think is a long way of saying increasing productivity.
Sure.
But the idea of making the application simpler to use across platforms, meaning across the person's sort of field of work, as it were, doesn't seem to get quite as much attention from the vendors. Besides increased productivity, besides streamlined workflows, what advantages does that kind of ease of use bring?
Some of them aren't so obvious. So let's talk about compliance for a second. One of the reasons to have an applicant tracking system or a TA suite is to make sure that you have a secure data store with historical data on who you targeted for hiring and how you dispositioned candidates. And you may need to report out on that historical data, right, for the purposes of an audit with a governmental agency or regulatory agency. Well, if a system like SmartRecruiters is not easy enough to use, then interviewers, hiring managers are gonna fall out of compliance, because they're going to use email, they're going to use instant messages, Slack, right? And they're gonna have conversations about candidates, about the hiring process that they shouldn't be having outside of the loop. right, of the actual official hiring platform that they purchased, right, as a compliance umbrella. So when we talk about extreme ease of use, one of the things we talk about as kind of a subtopic is, and I'll use this phrase again, kind of free range user experience. So what that means is imagine in SmartRecruiters case, we are this platform on the back end. So we are a hub for your data. We keep it secure. We keep it in the cloud, and you're able to then report out on anything for any compliance reason later. But that hiring manager that was resisting using the platform, they didn't want to log in to SmartRecruiters. It just wasn't in their flow of work to have to learn this recruiting system, because if this is an engineering hiring manager or this is a marketing hiring manager, they're not recruiters. It's not the system they want to use every day. We can bring them back into the loop of compliance by taking, for example, an AI chatbot and surfacing that chatbot once again in their Slack. I'll use Slack as an example because it's something we're releasing soon at SmartRecruiters. Surface the AI chatbot and dialogue with the chatbot in Slack, but then sync the conversations and the data back to the system of record, back to SmartRecruiters. So there's a lot of stake at here. Ease of use isn't just productivity, to your point. It comes down to a compliant adoption. It also comes down to making better hiring decisions. So I'll give you one other example. SmartRecruiters, like several hiring platforms, has a system where we provide interviewers with an interview scorecard. Okay. Well, the interview scorecard interface is very powerful. It's highly structured. It's meant to give the interviewer kind of an objective rubric to use to guide questioning during an interview. But let's get real. How many hiring managers get a little bit lazy and don't pull up that scorecard and don't type in, in line all the answers to the scorecard questions? A lot of hiring managers do that, right? They're lax on doing that. So to get better, and then what's the problem? If we're not filling out scorecards, we're making hires on a whim, right? I think it's been reported somewhere that an interview alone is one of the least predictive ways to determine if somebody is a worthy hire, right? So you've got to layer in more and better signal than just hey, we're having a fun time together on Zoom. I like the vibe of this conversation. But again, if hiring managers are resisting the interface because it's too clunky, ease of use means actually making better hiring decisions. So with AI, for example, you can start to imagine an interviewer on Zoom with perhaps a scorecard automatically integrated into the screen, and perhaps AI listening for opportunities to then trigger on the screen questions that the interviewer might want to ask. And then it'll feel very natural and effortless for the interviewer, but then they'll capture that structured data that's so important to making the hiring decision. At the end of all this, just to make this real, if you're a SmartRecruiters customer, for example, you have the ability to take a slate of candidates or almost a podium of candidates and compare them side by side based on all this interview scorecard data. So again, if you have 3 or 4 candidates to compare, but you're missing scorecard data from 2 of them, then how do you make a fair decision? You can't. But with AI, with extreme ease of use, it's just that these processes happen in the flow of work. So I'll just underline again, extreme ease of use. To your point, I think you make a very good point. Not just about going faster and being more productive, but about compliance, literally, and about making better hiring decisions.
Now, ease of use or access is obviously a key point of any kind of technology solution. And with the power of AI suddenly being available, with its flexibility being available, how has that changed your approach to product development? Has it changed your thinking in terms of the kind of feature sets you can offer or the kind of data you can access? And how are you sorting it all out?
It's a really, really good question, and it's extremely top of mind, and it has impacted the way we think about product development. So I guess I'll share a couple competitive cards here. I can't give away all the secrets, but I'll say a few things. The types of customers that purchase the SmartRecruiters platform, and likely some of our direct competitors, probably in the same boat, they're looking for a best of breed solution that's going to power their complex hiring needs. If their hiring needs weren't complex, they would just go to an HCM vendor and live with the recruiting module that just comes standard, right? And that's fine. But the companies that come to us have complex needs. And when we sign up new customers, they tell us consistently three things. They want extreme ease of use. They want extreme flexibility to bend and shape the platform to their business needs and workflows. And they want extreme connectivity to make sure that SmartRecruiters can connect to lots of other apps. So that's always been the case. That's been part of our product DNA. Again, usability, flexibility, connectivity. In the age of AI, though, you could put an exponent on some of those things, because let's just take flexibility for a second as something that our customers demand. Customers want to configure complex workflows. If you can talk to the machine and let the machine self-configure by creating a really advanced prompt, we're probably going to see a step change in just how sophisticated and just how custom the workflows can actually be. AI will raise the game on just how tailored our customers can get. And so we have to think about the AI interface with things like workflow building. That's impacted our thinking. The other thing that's really impacted our thinking is that, and I mentioned this earlier, the cost of developing applications. So let's say, again, the ATS is in the center of the hiring team's universe, but there's all these other applications that sit on the ATS, from your career site to your chatbot on your career site, to your CRM, to your onboarding systems, right? And then assessment vendors that plug into the ATS, right? There are thousands and thousands of apps today in the world that our customers rely on to plug into the ATS. Well, what's happening is we envision that number, if the number is 1,000 standard apps that are plugged into the ATS, we envision that number going to 1 million. And we envision our customers themselves being able to create their own apps that are hyper customized to their brand and their really niche workflow needs. And again, using a no-code builder, they can create their own app and not have to buy it from us. And so when you're looking at a world where you go from 1,000 apps to 1 million apps, and they're almost free, that tells you something about your product strategy. It tells you that what you really need to focus on, more than trying to chase every idea to build every app that anybody could think of, is empower our customers to build apps and empower third-party vendors who are not in the HR tech space, maybe the MarTech space, the sales tech space. All right, because recruiting resembles marketing and sales sometimes. So there's all these technologies and all this app building that's going to explode, because the cost of creating apps is going to go towards zero, and the ease of creating apps is going to go toward 100% by non-technical people. That this informs our strategy in two ways. We are doubling down on being a robust platform that makes it extremely easy to plug these apps into. And that's different, once again, from trying to build, as SmartRecruiters, every single app ourselves. And then the other thing is, it's not just having a platform to plug into, it's having a right marketplace for the apps, an app store that is extremely easy, an intelligent app store where our customers can get recommendations and intelligently discover the apps they didn't even know that they needed. So that's a very unselfish view of product development, because it says we can put our ego aside as SmartRecruiters. Every experience that we deliver to our customers doesn't have to be a screen that we own and that we develop and that we design, right? What we're trying to do, and again, it comes back down to what we call boundless recruiting, is break down the walls of the ATS and let our customers create by themselves or plug into any other app that they need. So again, that strategically then focuses you on having a robust, secure hub or platform, and then a sophisticated marketplace that makes it easy to discover and match to these million apps. That informs a lot of our R&D strategy. And it's different from some other vendors that are, again, trying to create every little point solution to tack onto the ATS themselves. The other thing I would say is the advent of AI informs the way we think about the role of our customers and our end users. Rebecca Carr, who's our Chief Product Officer, spoke at a hiring success event. It's one of our first-party events that we do, and we did one in Australia recently. And she spoke to a room of our customers, and she issued the following challenge, which I agree with wholeheartedly. Rebecca said that going forward, talent acquisition managers really now need to become innovation managers. And I think the soundbite really hit me, and so I stole it from her, and I'm using it on this podcast, but I'm going to use it elsewhere too. Talent acquisition managers have to become innovation managers. And what does that mean? It basically means that you've got to keep up with the technology, you've got to keep up with these tools, and you've got to keep your head on straight when you're doing it, because as exciting as it is to experiment with new tech and anticipate what's happening, whether it's in AI or automation or no code, an innovation manager, and there's a whole body of theory around innovation management, has to stay focused on a true north. Otherwise, you'll go off the rails, right? And so there's a lot of recruiters out there probably already overwhelmed by what's happening with AI, probably starting to tinker with things. And the one pitfall that there is that you can fall into a solutionism trap. It's like, well, what could we do with AI? Let's mess around. I think as a innovation manager, sure, part of your job is to test new technologies and anticipate them. But what I've seen work in the past, and what I'm trying to convey to our customers at SmartRecruiters, is that you want to stick with not what's so much with what's changing in the world, but what is going to always remain the same. What, to use the phrase, jobs to be done. What are the jobs to be done as a recruiter that are timeless? You'll always have to attract talent. You'll always have to select from a short list. You'll always have to hire them and onboard them. And so as a talent acquisition manager, we're asking our customers to really be mindful of the problem space that they live in. Yes, think about the cool applications of AI, but have it grounded in what are the problems that hurt the most now that are still unsolved, and then jump off the problem and then go find a solution in orbit of that problem. It's hard to do, right? There's my LinkedIn feed is flooded with every new. It's like I'm following squirrels all day, right? The LinkedIn feed is flooded with endless possibilities, and so there's two sides to being a again, an innovation manager, anticipating and harnessing the technology, but keeping yourself grounded and actually solving problems and not becoming just like a solutionist. So yeah, I don't know if that helps give some color on our thinking about this.
Yeah, it does. And it leads me to one more question, which is, how does all this impact your messaging? Because it sounds like a lot of what you're talking about are things that go on essentially under the hood. They could be transparent to the user. They could add up to a better experience, but in ways that are hard to describe or hard to quantify. So when you're trying to figure out what your message is going to be to customers and prospects, how do you translate that?
It's a good question. One of the things that seems to have stuck is that customers that are knocking on our door and thinking about making a switch to our technology, there's a reason that they're thinking about making that switch. They're in pain in a certain way. And we're actually following their lead, because what recruiting teams and hiring teams are telling us is that they feel trapped in their current ATS. There is a high level of anxiety that their current platform will not withstand the changes that are being, the gale force winds coming from this radical change in technology. There's a term that we've used in jest, which was, we've said some of our prospects feel like they're in ATS jail. And with all the things going on in the world, from pandemics and wars, and of course to AI, it's not a good feeling to be stuck inside of a rigid, clunky system that cannot withstand or adapt to all these changes. So the message we've delivered is one of freedom. We've framed the choice as coming to a next generation system like ours is choice between staying in ATS jail, and embracing what we call hiring without boundaries. And we really do believe there's this limitless set of possibilities now for hiring managers and hiring teams and recruiters, if they use a platform that's going to be deeply integrated with these new technologies and riding the waves and helping them anticipate. But a lot of these legacy providers, the way they're architected, their philosophies, they just won't. They're proving that they're not able to withstand the change. And so this is what's bringing us back. So yeah, we've called it boundless recruiting or hiring without boundaries, and it's a message of freedom. We talk about helping our customers move faster and hire smarter by embracing all this change and knocking down the walls of that ATS to plug into all these cool new applications, instead of just being inside the four walls of these old systems. So I think so far the message of freedom and boundless possibility is being taken really well. There's always the caveat of fear of change, and too much change too quickly can be intimidating. But this comes back down to our promise as a vendor and why we talk so much about hiring success and why we invest so much in a methodology actually that helps customers not just use the software, but align their strategy to the software. And what we're saying is we're in it with you. You're not alone. You're not going to face change alone. We believe that a software vendor that's going to help their customers navigate this time isn't just building software. They're heavily investing in services, support, customer success, and methodology in our case. So I think that's one of the things. It's not a technical point, but maybe that's a fun way to end a technical interview or to segue, which is none of this works without keeping your head on straight with a commitment again to keep staying grounded in the problems you want to solve and having a strategy for using this technology. So we invest outsized resources at SmartRecruiters in those things that might feel intangible or unsoftware like.
Well, Jim, thanks very much. It was great talking with you. I appreciate all this, and it's really fascinating.
Enjoyed the chat. Anytime. Thank you so much.
My guest today has been Jim Milton, the Chief Strategy Officer of SmartRecruiters. And this has been PeopleTech, the podcast of WorkforceAI.news. To keep up with AI technology and HR, visit Workforce AI every day. We're the most trusted source of news in the HR tech industry. Find us at www.workforceai.news. I'm Mark Pfeffer.